Hey everyone, Mitch coming up with the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, Mark's Machine spoiler season is done! But it's time for us to analyze the cards now. And so, because of that, on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through the tier list rankings for the Precon commanders. Which of those Precon commanders are going to get at the top? Which of those S tier commanders? Again, S tier is going to be the top tier. The D tier is going to be the worst tier. And, of course, A, B, and C are going to be somewhere in between. Yeah, on these episodes, I'm going to break the commanders down for you and tell you why, in my opinion, some of them, well, are just leagues beyond the others. Now, if you haven't seen my other episode on the tier list rankings for the main set commanders, make sure you check that one out. Yeah, there were so many commanders. There was like 30 plus commanders in the main set and like 13 in the precons that I had to break this up. So yeah, here we go. Let's jump into those tier list rankings, whatever they are. And make sure you blame Eddie in the comments below for me messing up right there. And also blame Eddie in the comments below because Eddie helped out these rankings as well and shared his own rankings. So, with all that said, let's jump into the D tier. Starting off with the worst commanders, or should I say, commander out of all of them, out of all the Precon commanders. I am so sorry, but Gimbal, you are adorable, but you are a D tier commander in comparison to the other commanders in these precons. And something I should have mentioned too, these tier list rankings are only, they're in a vacuum. They're based on just the commanders and the precons compared to each other, not compared to other precon commanders in the past or other sets at all. Just these 13 compared to each other. Regardless, Gimbal, yeah, you're at the bottom of the heap, essentially, when it comes to power level. You are, unfortunately, not all that impressive compared to the rest, but I do like your design. A 4/4 Gremlin Artificer that costs 2 green, blue, red. Artifact creature control of trample. At the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 red Gremlin Artifact creature token. Get X counters on it, where X is the number of differently named artifact tokens you control. This is a decently expensive commander at 5 mana for an effect that, yes, can be impactful, but you're pretty dependent on that effect, essentially. And yeah, again, it's only once each turn, just once on your end step, so you have to actually have your commander out and keeping it out to actually get to that point. You also have to set yourself up a decent amount to actually get to a pretty big, heavy hitter with that. Yes, your commander also gives trample to artifact creatures, which is nice. That being said, in comparison to the other commanders in these precons, they're just other ones that outclass this pretty easily. So overall, yeah, Gimbal, you're adorable. You're awesome. I think there's going to be a lot of gizmo alters of you, but you are, in my opinion, a D tier commander. So let's see if I can find you. There we go. D tier right there. Okay, I'm very sorry, Gimbal. You're adorable, but you are a D tier commander. All right, moving on. I feel less bad after we move on. Here we go. Okay, let's get out of there. Let's go on to the C tier again. So not the bottom of the barrel, sorry, Gimbal, but the commanders that are just above that. Not quite the middle of the road, but again, yeah, ones that are, they're okay. Let's just go with that. Catilda and Lair, you are going to be the first C tier commander. I'm going to be bringing up a 3/3 human that costs green, white, blue. Whenever you cast a human spell, target instant sorcery spell in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Flashback costs equal to its mana cost. So kind of like all your creatures are Snapcaster mages. If you're going human tribal, you got to go pretty heavy to human tribal to make sure you're getting all the benefits out of this. That's decent. That's not bad. I mean, being able to get extra value out of instant sorceries, that's great. You do have to pay for that cost still out of those spells. There's definitely going to be some like kind of, interesting kind of math going on. Like, okay, like I've got these 2 humans I can utilize. Okay, awesome. Okay, they cost this much. Which spells do I want to cast in my graveyard? Oh, that's not going to work out. Okay, I got to figure it out. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of ways to ramp. There's a lot of ways to draw. There's a lot of ways to, get cards in your graveyard in these colors as well. So there's some exciting things you can do. But yeah, specifically kind of like human tribal with flashback is interesting, but again, not nearly as effective as some of the other commanders. So Catilda and Lear, oh, just went over Gimbal. I'm sorry, Gimbal, didn't mean to bring you back up. I'm very sorry. Catilda and Lear, because of all that, you are a C tier commander right above Gimbal. I'm sorry again, Gimbal, I feel bad. You're adorable, but yeah, you're down there in the D tier. Regardless, in the C tier, joining Catilda and Lear, we've got Kazla the Broken Halo, a 5/4 Angel Ally with Convoke that has Flying Vigilance and Haste that costs 3 blue, red, white. On top of that, whenever you cast another spell that has Convoke, scry to then draw a card. So a good amount of, card selection and card advantage in this. Again, if you are casting Convoke spells, if you got, Convoke Tribal, essentially, with a commander like this, you can do some pretty exciting things. And yeah, again, basically, being able to set up your next draw, dig through your deck, get the exact cards that you need on top, essentially. Yeah, you can do that pretty quickly once you're casting spell after spell after spell, scrying a lot, maybe even taking advantage of drawing, with a Thought Reflection for even more value, too. That being said, this commander unfortunately is pretty limited because, well, there's only so many Convoke cards out there. In this new set coming out, yes, we did get, some more Convoke spells. That being said, there's still not like a glut of them. You still, are kind of limited, and yeah, because of that, that definitely hurts this commander. In the future, this one definitely could, move up a rank or so, essentially, because, well, there might be more Convoke spells out there, but at this point, Castle of the Broken Halo, because of your limiting, or limitation with the number of, spells you really have access to, you are a C tier commander. So there we go, right there. And that is the last of the C tier commanders, as long as my, numbers are correct here. I believe they are. So let's move on to the B tier commanders. So the middle of the road commanders, ones that aren't the worst, obviously, definitely not the best, but a good, nice middle of the road commander. And sorry, Kazla, but there is another commander that is kind of similar to you that, in my opinion, is just a little bit better, and that is Saint Trapped in Rem Carlos. A 3/4 Spirit Human that costs blue, red, white. Whenever it becomes tapped, create a 1/1 red human creature token. It's the first time this ability is rolled this turn. It's the second time you get a 1/1 blue Spirit with flying. It's the third time you get a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. And whenever you cast a spell that has Convoke, you untap Saint Trapped in Rem Carlos. Okay, so again, Convoke, that definitely is a limiting factor on this kind of a commander. There are only so many Convoke spells out there right now. In the future, this definitely could change. There definitely could be more of them, and yeah, that would definitely potentially even bump up this commander. This is an interesting commander, though, for, what it is. The amount of value it can give you is pretty cool. Again, it can actually, help you convoke a lot. Again, basically, it convokes, it makes a creature token, which can help you convoke the next spell. And also, this can help you convoke the next spell because it can untap and do that. And of course, there's other untap effects, too, that you can really take advantage of. Dramatic reversal, essentially, things like that. Yeah, this can make a token army in absolutely no time. You can take advantage of other tap effects like, opposition, etc., etc. That being said, again, with that convoke limitation, although in my opinion it is better than Kazla, it is not quite up to, another tier because it only has so many convoke spells to have access to. So again, Saint Trapped in Rem Carlos, don't hate me, I'm sorry, you are a B tier commander because of that limitation. Please don't hate me, I'm sorry. Anyways, moving on. Next up, one who I really don't hates me because they're adorable. Slimefoot and Squee, especially Slimefoot. A 3/3 Fungus Goblin that costs black, red, green. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get a 1/1 green sapling creature token. And by paying 1 black, red, green, sacrifice a sapling. Said sacrifice, like sacrificing a sapling. There you go. Return Slimefoot and Squee and up to 1 other target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate as a sorcery. Basically a reanimation commander with a repeatable reanimation effect. You do need to be set up where you have a Slimefoot. I guess Slimefoot and Squee in your graveyard, and also saplings in play. That being said, this commander obviously does make you saplings. You don't want to entirely depend on that though, because if you have it in your graveyard and your opponents take out your saplings, you might just have your commander stuck in your graveyard. So make sure you have other ways to do that. Of course, there's plenty of great ways to do it, like, Verdant Force, etc., etc. But yeah, you can cheat out some massive things. Again, a great repeatable way to reanimate some massive things. And of course, you can sacrifice this, get back in your graveyard. A good commander, a solid commander, one that does require a good amount of setup. But again, a very solid, in my opinion, B tier commander. So Slimefoot and Squee, congratulations for making it to the middle of the road. Moving on. Next up, we've got Bright Palm Soul Awakener. Now, this one I will say kind of has a decent amount of power potential depending on the play, depending on the situation. Yes, you can have some absolutely absurd plays with this. It does require some setup as well. This is one that I definitely struggled on, ranking. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I put it in the B tier. A 4/3 Fox Shaman with backup 1 that costs 1 red, green, white. And backup, as a reminder, means that when this creature enters the battlefield, you get a +1 counter target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn. So basically, you kind of like lend it the ability. It's kind of like, those enchantment creatures in Theros from a long time ago, like those Boon Satyr, like those types, essentially. But again, this one's makes like a potential like lending of the ability. Here you go. Like, you can get this attack trigger then too, which is great. Doubling number of counters on a creature is great. I mean, being able to help that creature hit even harder. There's certain creatures that care about, their power. There's certain creatures that, care about getting counters on them. And of course, there's other ways to get you more counters on them too. On top of that, this creature basically can't be chump blocked either, which is great as well. So again, it has a lot of potential, a good amount of setup. There are ways to take advantage of this. Again, with blinking it potentially again is an ETB trigger. Getting that backup on other creatures essentially can be great. Yeah, it does have a lot of potential. Again, I think it's just the amount of setup that it does require. I kind of just, limited it a little bit compared to some other ones. Instead of, like a go wide, counter strategy, this is more of like a focus, on certain creature strategies. So I just think it's a bit more limiting. So overall, Bright Palm Soul Awakener, I definitely struggled with where to place you, but I think at the end of the day, I'm putting you in the B tier. You are, in my opinion, a middle of the road commander. Next up, joining you in the B tier, though, you are not alone. Don't worry. Rashmi and Ragavan are going to be joining you. A 2/4 elf monkey that costs 1 green, blue, red. Whenever you cast your first spell during each of your turns, exile the top card of target opponent's library and create a treasure token. Then you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than the number of artifacts you control. If you don't cast this way, you may cast this turn. Basically, free things off the top of your opponent's library. I like this limitation on this commander. If there wasn't that limitation to, well, it being your first spell, if there wasn't that limitation to just being on your turns, any of those limitations were taken away, this would definitely be a higher tier commander. Just being able to get, one free thing off the top of opponent's library on each of your turns is still great. It can still provide you a lot of value. There is that limiting effect, with the number of artifacts you control, but of course you got plenty of ways to get a ton of artifacts in play. Unlike Gimbal, they don't have to be differently named artifacts. So yeah, you can just flood the board with artifacts, and again, this one helps you, with treasures every single time you do this too. So yeah, being able to cast things off the top of your opponent's libraries for free and ways to kind of see them. Of course, there's cards like Lantern of Insight, which lets you see the top card of libraries, which is great. Or again, ways like Expel from Raska, which you can get cards on top of your opponent's library specifically. Yeah, you can set yourself up for some big plays. It does require some setup. Again, that limiting factors does limit it to it being a B tier commander, in my opinion. If there wasn't those limitations, this could be all the way up to the S tier if it wasn't, limited to all these things. But yeah, definitely a really exciting one. One that can definitely pack a punch. And yeah, if you hit the right thing off the top, can finish your opponents off quite quickly. Again, if they've got a Blightsteel Colossus and you've got enough artifacts in play, good luck to them. So again, Rashmi and Ragavan, a very cool commander in my opinion, and a B tier commander, middle of the road. Next up, though, the final B tier commander, and yeah, here we go. Eminence is back, apparently. Sidar Jabari of Zalfir. I'm not a big Eminence fan. I'm very sorry. This one, it is limiting, which is nice. Here we go, and that's why it's a B tier commander. 4/3 Human Knight for 1 white, blue, black. Eminence, whenever you attack with one or more Knights of Sidar Jabari is in the command zone on the battlefield, draw a card, discard a card. So a nice free looting effect for you that you don't even have to get this commander out to get that free looting effect if you are going Knight Tribal, right? Plenty of times you're going to be attacked with Knights. Basically, 1 loot for free each turn, which is nice for you. Again, I don't really like Eminence, sorry. But it does help, once you do get the commander out. Flying First Strike. You can get through with this commander quite easily on at least one opponent, most likely. Whenever it deals combat to a player, return target Knight creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So basically, ditch a good Knight in your graveyard with those looting effects, get it back out into play with this. Obviously, Double Strike really helps this commander as well. I did struggle with this one as well because Eminence is just a very powerful thing. That being said, this one is limited to Knight Tribal. There's a good amount of good Knights out there. That being said, it doesn't have as much support as, say, like, Ur-Dragon does with, dragons as well. And also Ur-Dragon can hit harder and also do other things. Regardless, it's not a debate between, Sidar Jabari and Ur-Dragon. This one I did struggle with. Again, Eminence is powerful. But at the end of the day, I decided, compared to some of the other commanders that are in the higher tiers, this one is, in my opinion, our last B tier commander. There we go. So let's move on to the A tier, though. Commanders that are incredibly powerful. Not quite up to that S tier, but are incredibly powerful in their own right. Not middle of the road. On the upper half, on the upper echelon of commanders out of these precons. And here we go. Goro, Goro, and Saturo. I like saying that. 3/4 Goblin Human for blue, black, red. Whenever one or more creatures you control that enter the battlefield this turn, deal combination to a player. Create a 5/5 red Dragon Spirit creature with flying, and by paying 1 in a red, creature control gain haste till end of turn. So a great way to give all your creatures haste, which is fantastic, because being able to be aggressive with these creatures is great. And yeah, the potential to make an absurd amount of evasive power early is huge. Just a low-to-the-ground commander that you can get down on turn 3. If you've got some other creatures that you can get out, early, can get out, hastily, essentially, that you can swing with very quickly, you can, get an absurd amount of dragons, an absurd amount of power out quite quickly. Yeah, like turn 4, getting, 3 5/5 flyers is nothing to scoff at. And of course, there's ways to make those even more powerful. There's ways to have them, make, sure that you're hurting your opponents even more with them, like double up, their attacks, double up, double strike, get double strike as well on them. Or, just, get extra combats. Or, also like Warstorm Surges. There's plenty of ways that play really well with this. And of course, just, a lot of ways to really take advantage of, again, being aggressive, getting creatures out there with haste, getting creatures out there that are tapped and attacked when they already come into play. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things you can do with this one. And yeah, just an aggressive commander like this one can really surprise players, I think. And in my opinion, is an A tier commander with the potential that it has just to hit so hard and so quick. And again, kind of reset too. It's only a 3-mana commander. If you need to get it back out, you can. There you go. So that is our first C tier commander. Next up in our C tier, we've got Vermaz, Blight of Reskos. An incredibly powerful commander. And yeah, I will have to say, kind of with these A tier commanders, they're all very powerful. Just when it comes to the S tier, we'll get to that here in a bit. They're not quite there. Vermaz, Blight of Reskos, a 3/4 Phyrexian cat that costs 2 white, black. Whenever you cast a Phyrexian creature or artifact creature spell, incubate X Rex that spell's mana value. So again, incubating means you make an artifact token that comes with X counters on it based on the spell's mana value. And you can pay 2 to transform into a Phyrexian artifact creature. At the beginning of your end step, again, each end step, sorry, if a Phyrexian died to your control this turn, proliferate. Yeah. Proliferating can be incredibly powerful. You're going to have Phyrexians in play. With this, you could go Phyrexian Tribe, you go Artifact Tribe, you go a combination of both. I personally would probably just go Artifact Creature Tribal and just, yeah, there's a lot of ways to use and abuse artifacts, you know, cost reduction, etc., etc. You can get an absurd amount of artifact tokens out and play with this. You can have a lot of value from sacrificing them, I mean, including, again, once they are transformed, sacrificing them and getting that trigger to proliferate. Again, you can utilize that, you know, to make more counters on your creatures. You can utilize that, you know, for charge counters, for things like an Everflowing Chalice. You can also utilize that, you know, for poison counters. So yeah, there's a lot of different powerful avenues for this commander. And again, utilizing artifacts in a, you know, potentially broken-ish way can be very beneficial with a commander like this. One that just gives you a second artifact whenever you're casting an artifact. That can be deadly. That could be absurd. I mean, Quark Clan Ironworks, anyone? So yeah, Bramaz, Blight of Reskos is definitely a very powerful commander, and in my opinion, definitely worthy of being in the A tier. Joining Bramaz in the A tier, though, is another fallen, well, actually a pair of fallen, you know, creatures, essentially. Fell to the Phyrexian side, Moira and Tashar. Yet another Orzhov fallen team up. I guess the other one wasn't team up. Regardless, 4/5 Phyrexian Spirit Bird with flying that costs 3 white and a black. Whenever you cast a historic spell, return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. It would leave the battlefield, exile instead of putting it anywhere else. Yeah, if it didn't have that limitation, this would probably bump up to the S tier because yeah, there's definitely ways to use and abuse and, you know, get it back in your graveyard, get back to your hand, do other things. Essentially, you can kind of keep it around. Of course, there is a way to keep it around as well, you know, with ending the turn, but we'll talk about that later. Or we'll just talk about it now. There you go. But yeah. Again, being able to use and abuse historic spells, which of course includes, well, legendaries, which is nice, sagas, which is nice, but yeah, artifacts, gross. Yeah, you can kind of do like an artifact storm build where you are just getting an absurd amount of things out of your graveyard. You can reduce the cost of your artifacts to basically make them free, some of which you can recast again and again and again, basically an infinite amount of times to just get everything out of your graveyard that you need to get out. Yeah, it's temporary, but of course you can take advantage of ETBs, you can take advantage of LTBs, and again, if you've got things like maybe Sundial the Infinite, you can end the turn and keep them in play as well. So yeah, there's some brokenly good things you can do this commander. Yeah, just being able to reanimate things essentially for free additional benefit of just casting historic spells, that's pretty fantastic. And again, not really a limitation on what you can reanimate. Again, basically anything except for lands. So yeah, definitely a very powerful commander, one that I think definitely deserves to be in the A tier with the amount of power and potential that it has. Now, the final commander in the A tier, though, joining these is Elenda and Azor. Now, this is a commander that does have a good amount of mana cost, okay? It does cost 6, which is on the higher side of all these commanders we've talked about today. Elenda and Azor, though, definitely makes up for it with what it does. 6/5 flying, ward 2. So it is protected, all right, which is nice. Protected in a way, ward 2 is not perfect, but still nice protection there. Again, evasive, 6/6, 4/6 mana, 3 white, blue, black. That's pretty good. On top of that, whenever it attacks, you can pay X, white, blue, black. If you do draw X cards, yeah, basically a stroke of genius essentially on attack trigger, you know, with more pips, but still. Being able to just say, yeah, I'd like to draw 6 cards, dump mana into that, great. Yeah, that's huge, number one. Number two, the more cards you draw in a turn, the more benefited you are because, hey, at the beginning of your end step, beginning of each end step, you may pay 4 life. If you do, create a number of 1/1 black Vampire Knight creature tokens with lifelink, you will the number of cards you draw on this turn. 4 life is well worth that. You might even get that life back, obviously, quite easily, quite effectively by making life-linking tokens. And of course, you know, the X plays into that, you know, by drawing X cards, you can make more and more creatures. But of course, yeah, there's plenty of wheel effects as well that you can utilize, like a Tolarian Winds, etc., etc. Being able to draw an absurd amount of cards in a turn, make a giant army that, of course, you can take advantage of. You know, there's plenty of ways to pump it, ways to get it through, ways to sacrifice them for value. Yeah, this commander is pretty absurd, and if it wasn't for its high mana value, it would definitely be a potential commander that I would say could move up a tier. Although, maybe not in this case, because now let's move on to the... Well, I gotta move them first. I'm so sorry, Elenda and Azor. I didn't put you in there. There we go. Now I was getting excited. Now, let's move on to the S tier, and that is going to be the cream of the crop, the top commander from all of the precons. And I do say commander because if you are counting correctly and actually looking at the tier maker, there's only one left, and you're kind of cheating, I guess, if you see who it is. Here we go. Shalai and Halar. Yeah, this one, in my opinion, is in a league of its own. It is kind of unfair in some ways. It is just, oh my goodness. Yeah, definitely going to have a target on its back because, yeah, once this is in play, things can get pretty out of control and immediately out of control in some situations. 3/3 Angel Elf with Flying and Vigilance that costs 1 red, green, white. Yeah, this should have costed more. This should have costed a good amount more. This should have been up there with Elenda and Azor at 6 mana, most likely. Whenever one or more counters are put on a creature control, Shalai and Halar deals that much damage to target opponent. Gross. Okay. So, Go wide, get a ton of counters on your creatures. There's plenty of effects to go wide in these colors. There's plenty of effects to get a counter on all of your creatures. There's plenty of effects to get even more counters on your creatures when you get a counter on your creature. You get to deal damage every single time. And again, it's not just like to a creature. That would be a bit more limiting. It's to an opponent's face, which is probably the #1 target you'd like to have with an effect like this. To an opponent's face is absurd. Being able to take out players in absolutely no time. If you got 10 creatures in play and you've got something like a Loyal Guardian in play that like puts, counters on all your creatures on all of your, combats, yeah, deal 10 damage every single time that happens. Oh, wait, I also have a Conclave Mentor in play. I get an extra counter on them. Deal 20 damage. Oh, I've also got Damage Over in play. Oh, that's 40 damage. You're gone. You're gone. And of course, that's just like the tip of the iceberg with this commander because, yeah, there's a ton of counter synergies. There's a ton of go wide synergies, but also this commander combos with like 3-4 things or whatever. Like the Red Terror, like cards like that. Like, hey, whenever an opponent's dealt damage by a red source, you get a counter on this creature. Oh, okay, my commander is a red source. It dealt damage to an opponent. I get a counter on that. Oh, my commander saw that, get a counter. It deals another damage. This looping effect essentially can happen with a couple different things. Yeah, there's incredibly powerful things you can do with this. It's gross. It's, I'm not going to say broken, but it should have had a higher mana value. And yeah, Shalyn Halar, you are most definitely, in my opinion, and I'm so sorry, Elena and Azor, I just accidentally went over you. And then I moved it again. Oh, I'm just out of it right now because, oh my goodness, the power potential of this commander is just absurd. So you're throwing me off just a little bit, the Shalyn Halar, but there you are in the S tier on your own. Sorry to all the other commanders, you are not quite up to that level. So yeah. Let me know in the comments below. Those are my tier rankings. Again, a huge thank you to Eddie, but also blame Eddie in the comments below for, Eddie's, fault in all this. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on these rankings. Where would you have ranked commanders? Am I way off in my rankings? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you check out my Golden Pig episodes for the Precons, the main set as well. Also, of course, the tier rankings for the main set too. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.